Welcome everyone to the AspiRE Beast Council deal analysis. Um, this week I had to pre-record because I have to be at a GMR event, which I have the sweater on right now. I sit on the board as the board director of our charitable trust, which is the Milwaukee Homeless Veteran Initiative. So we have an event going on, so I have to be there for that. So I needed to pre-record this analysis. So please forgive me from that standpoint, but understand that we want to stay consistent, right? Because that is how um, you make it in this business as a real estate investor, right? You have to continue to do the things, and when things come up, you make adjustments and you still get the things you need to get done, like analyzing deals, right? I have to analyze so many deals a week so that I can make sure I see enough deals so I can write enough deals to keep moving forward. Um, so with that being said, I'm gonna keep kind of going back and forth, but you will definitely see how we analyze deals and how we use the what I call the Aspire Beast Council, the ABCs of analyzing deals for us. Again, we use the Aspire acronym to analyze deals. So A is for asset address, S is for seller situation, P is for purchase assumption, I is in for improvement, investment, R is for revenue, and E is for the exit. And because I am a licensed real estate broker in the state of Wisconsin, I tend to use deals that either already closed or deals that I've done, so that other agents won't come in and attack me if I say it's a bad deal because of the price they have. So, me being a licensed broker with Next Home My Way, I have to kind of protect, all interests. But this week, I'm actually going to use a deal that I helped a client, an out-of-state investor client. I'm gonna give him a shout out because I already interviewed him and released that. Jonas, he purchased this property, and this is one of the two that we did last year, where his portfolio went from zero to $500,000, right? And that is what individuals want to do, right? Because we sat down and went over a strategy, we didn't make the mistake of buying him something that just cash flow, right? He wanted to scale, so we needed to buy something that he could pull the money out and reuse that money, which he did, because some of the money that he pulled out of this one he used in the next deal. And a lot of, I think, investors get so caught up that, well, if I put 50,000 in there, I need to get 65 out. He was smart enough to realize that he put enough in there and got, I would say, out of the amount that he put in, he probably got 75% of that money back. Well, that's 75% of money that he's able to reuse, and he didn't pass on his deal because he didn't get 110% of his money back. So I think sometimes when we read some of these real estate investment books and we hear the stories of individuals, knocking a home run out of the park of, they put 100,000 in and they got 175,000 out. Like, that doesn't always happen. And you have to really make sure that you're not getting caught up in what you're reading in books, and deal with real life, and making sure you have the right team around you. Because I was, that was conversations that we had to have together of letting him know, like, hey, you put 100,000 in there, you might only get 75 back, but that 75 you can go use for the next deal, and don't pass up on a deal because it didn't give you, your 100 back plus, 20 more thousand. So because we were able to have those conversations, this was a deal that we were able to get done. Now, it wasn't easy. We went through a lot of stuff to get this deal, and where we were able to ensure that it was in his best interest of getting the deal at the number that we needed, based on the things that we found out, right? At the end of the day, this, I felt like, was a great deal, but there was some negotiation. We had to go back and forth, and I had to, even talk him off the ledge. It was, there was situations where he wanted to walk away from the deal, and I had to express to him, like, hey man, eventually you got to pull the trigger, right? You know, if you want to be in this game, you got to take risk, and that's what this game is taking risk so you can see the reward on the other side. Excuse me. So without further ado, I'm going to move over to our AspiRE Beast Council calculator. I did create this through ChatGPT. We haven't released this yet because I'm still going through stuff, but I have been using it personally for my business and for my clients to help them assess deals. We're getting more and more comfortable to the point where we hopefully will be releasing this to our school members, and they'll be able to have access to this tool to, you know, analyze deals and speed up that process. So let me get some things situated here. Like I said, this is real life, right? This is not, you know, I'm treating it as just as if I was analyzing these deals right in front of people, and making sure that you guys see exactly, you know, what's happening. So, excuse me here. Sorry. Gotta make sure I get everything set up here. So this is how the calculator looks. And so what I'm gonna do is pull the address. Again, this is a deal that I have done. So I feel like I can speak on it. So this is the address, is 2849 West Juneau Avenue in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. So this property was on the market when we officially closed. It was on the market 24 days. This was a duplex. It was on the market for 149,000. And so some of this stuff I'm going to speak to. And we're going to move forward. So I don't like typing this out because it just allows me to be more flexible and shows you the what I like to say, because what ChatGPT is like, you have conversations. Well, that's basically what I'm having with it. Instead of me typing in numbers and that's what it is, I get to actually have a conversation with it. So the property type is a duplex. The square footage is 2,870 square feet. The bedrooms are 3 bedrooms, 1 bath, up and down. The year that it was built was 1910. I would say the condition was a moderate rehab. He did have to put a significant amount in there. One unit, the upper unit was vacant. The lower unit was tenant occupied. So I'm going to take this part out because I was having a conversation with you guys. So now what it's going to do is going to basically take this information, right, and assess it and give you all the information, right? So now it's going to go through it. So obviously I gave that information, but now the council, like that's what I call it, is going to format certain things, right? Milwaukee duplex format, typically early 1900s, vacant upper unit. Like, so it's giving me a little bit more assessment. It's telling you near West Side, Midtown, Investor Corridor, Burr. So, but that's what it ended up being. It was a Burr. So it's assessing it correctly. It could be a flip, you know, it could have been a wholesale, but it was on the market, right? So the agent that had it on the market had these different things. So the key metrics, ARV, is very on point. Like I said, I'll explain later of what we got it to. Market rent, that is correct as well. So this is very on point. Like I said, I've been giving it more and more information. It's learning the market in Milwaukee. Not saying you probably couldn't use this in a different state, but it's very honed into our southeastern Wisconsin area, because that's where I analyze a lot of my deals, and that's where I, you know, that's my domain, right? That's my kingdom, is southeastern Wisconsin. The rehab estimates, again, those are all things we're going over. very close with the estimate range. Again, as we go through it, I will explain a little bit more. So it's going over some stuff. So as we deal with it, so that was A. So I'm gonna say provide with S, seller situation. This was another real estate investor that was looking to get out of the deal. Was not willing to do much work, so they ended up being a little bit more flexible once we found out the home inspection. So please move to P. All right, it's going to tell the seller situation, investor transaction often allow deeper discounts, and then we're at the price purchase assumptions, closing cost estimate, cash, hard money. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to explain the situation that would happen. So property was on the market at 149,000. We actually going through the inspection report, we actually found out there were some issues with the roof and some foundational stuff. So we were able to reduce the price to 120,000. I believe closing cost was around 3%. Client is using hard money to rehab. The rehab budget we'll get into, but they're using a hard money loan, but then they will be refinancing out into a it would be a DSCR loan. So originally the hard money interest rate, I believe, was 14%. They had to put around, I believe, 20% down, but what also was giving the rehab budget as well. Holding period was between, I believe, 4 months, 4.5, 4 to 5 months. And then we refinance around the 6 month. Uh, Please move to I. I'm gonna say that just so that we keep going through the steps. Sometimes it'll go forward because of the information that we gave. So acquisition price was 120. So we got a discount. I'm gonna like give myself a little toot my horn here a little bit, and the only reason why is that is because um, know who you're working with, right? Especially when it deals with agents. So, for example, I only work with real estate investors. So I understand that we want the price as low as we possibly can. Not to say home buyers don't want it, but home buyers will go over the asking price because they really want that home, right? And sometimes that is what happens with some investors. They really want that home, and so they will overbid something that makes now they feel like they have to cut back in something else. As because I'm a real estate investment broker and I work with only investors, I charge a certain amount no matter if you buy a $50,000 house or or $200,000 house. I have a certain fee, so I don't mind negotiating your price down because I'm gonna get this my amount that I require for me to do deals, because no matter if it's a $50,000 deal or a $200,000 deal, I do the same things. I run numbers for you. I make sure you have the contractors. I make sure you have all those things. So just ensure that you're working with the right team, right? Sometimes agents don't want to bid down the price because that's how they get paid, right? They get a percentage of that amount, and so that could come into play when you're negotiating the price. So I had no problem lowering the price down $29,000 so that you could get the right price. So as you can see, I'm fudging some of these numbers because again, I know it was around these amounts that he was getting his hard money loan, but I know it still worked. So we were able to lower that amount down, and he was able to get the number that he needed to move forward. And we were able to get everything that we were looking for. Um, so now we're going to move to I. So I'm going to put in here, after assessing the rehab, client added 80,000 to the hard money loan that he was able to borrow against that. So, but they added that to the loan, that the 80,000 rehab budget. So please add that as the rehab, and then update the hard money loan to include the $80,000 rehab, because they gave him 100% of the rehab budget to fix the property, and then move to R. All right, now I put that in there. So again, like I said, I'm moving back and forth because I got to make sure I get all my numbers correct here. All right, so $80,000 budget, purchase financing plus 100% of rehab budget. So the purchase price is 120, rehab budget is 80,000. So total project cost is 200,000. So now we are reassessing at that amount. So 24,000 was the down payment of the purchase. Closing costs, estimated interest carry. Um, Now we have the total cash invested, approximately 33,035. Rehab 80,000. So total investment right now is 209,000. So the revenue, lower unit 1,200. So what end up happening, again, if you don't budget and plan these things out, these things might not work. But because we knew what he was trying to accomplish, what he did was when he closed on this, he started working on the upper unit, got it fixed up, and because he fixed it up nice enough, the lower unit was willing to move upstairs and get those things done. Sometimes people don't want people to live in above them, right? So, but in these situations, you know, that is how he was able to truly turn this property around, is because he was able to um, fix up the upper unit, get the roof done, get some of the foundation things done, and then move the lower tenant upstairs. Most of the time, people buy properties that is fully rented, and now you try to get a hard money, and you run into that problem, because now you can't fix that property up the way you need to, because you have tenants in there, and now you got to try to work around them. So ideally, if you're going to use hard money, you pretty much want a vacant property, or having one of the units vacant, and then hopefully the other unit will work with you so you can move them either up or down, because now they're in a better property, better unit, and then you can fix the other one in the certain time lane, right? Because the hard money, typically you have it for 6 months, and if you go beyond the 6 months, you got to refinance, and that's another extra cost you have to do, right? So to maintain and keep in budget, these are some of the things you have to do. So I'm going to pull a Rent-A-Meter, and just reassess that amount, and just, because it's a 3-bedroom, 1-bath, it's an apartment. I'm just going to get current numbers right now. So they're saying around 1,400. So we're going to just take the 1,300 amount. So they're already kind of using their amount here, right? Operating expense. They're already kind of assuming that this is the amount they can get. So this is what they're projecting post rehab and everything else. So so now we're gonna go. So I'm gonna move to R. So assess R. We're gonna put rents at 1,300 for both units. This is gonna be a BRRRR. So we are gonna refinance out of the deal. After that, I believe the ARV should be 260 for this case, because of the rents being at 1,300, and then we can move to E, and move to E after that. So we put it at 1,300. I believe that is what he did. And again, this is what makes this deal work is because they was able to move the lower unit to the upper unit. I believe he was able to get a little bit extra. It wasn't too much because obviously when you got a tenant with under a lease, I believe it was month to month, you can make arrangements. Obviously, if you move them upstairs, they might be in the same rent, which again, you might not care or it doesn't really matter at that point because you need to fix both units so that you can get the better assessment for the property, right? So we're going to rent both of them out for 1,300, 2,600. Annual gross is 31,000. They're going to just assume 35%, which I agree with because you're fixing it up. So your expenses obviously is going to jump because you're doing all that work in that first year. But moving forward, it should be less because now, for example, if you updated the water heater, that should be better. You put a new roof on. Now you don't have all those other expenses coming out. That might be there if you didn't fix up the property. So net operating income is 20,000 a year. So now user stated valuation around 260. Rehab, so we're in here 209,000. So the BRRRR that we're a little bit lower. I'm gonna say I believe he got it a little bit higher. So yeah. So we're at that was different. So please update the refinance to, I believe it was 85% of the refinance loan of the 260,000. So please update your numbers to that. And then we will move forward with the exit strategy was the BRRRR. So just calculate everything and then you can give me your final assessment. So 85% of that is 221, which I believe that's roughly where it was because he was able to pull money out. And like I said, he was able to basically get most of the money that he put in. Again, now you have to understand he borrowed the 80,000. And this is where I try to strategize, right? Part of what I do and what makes me a little bit different because of my background, because I have a finance background, we have to strategize, right? The financing loan, right? That's 200,000. So that if that was 20%, that could have been he would have been $40,000 in, right? And that could make it a major difference. But if you're rolling in the rehab budget right now, think about it. If he just did the 20% of the just regular loan, he still would have had to put 24,000. But then now you got to put 80,000. So now he could have been in there $100,000 of his own money, right? And maybe that wouldn't have allowed him to do what is necessary to accomplish his goal. And then that might be like, well, this deal doesn't make sense. But because he was able to use a hard money loan and then get out of it into a DSCR loan, he had more flexibility, right? So it's reassessing it. Like I said, I love this thing. Debt cover ratio is 1.13. Is not exactly where they needed to be because it's a little bit higher, but his exit strategy is the BRRRR. So right here, that's capital fully recycled. And that's what you're wanting, right? You are wanting to get the money that you put in the deal back out so you can go do the deal, another deal again. And that is what happened in this situation for my client. He was able to pull out the money that was necessary to be able to, he completely refinanced the structure. He was able to pull all his money out. And then in this situation, I think he left a little bit in, right? But he was able to pull enough out where he was able to use that money to go get another deal, right? He was able to fix this property up and he kept it, right? Sometimes people, when they're using hard money, they're using for fix and flips, they get their part back out and then go get another one. Well, the BRRRR method is the best of both worlds, right? Because you're kind of doing a fix and flip, but at the end of the day, your flip is back to you, right? You flipped it back to your ownership, and that now you're able to actually keep that property and get the rents and get your full money back. So it's almost like you almost bought a property free, right? because you got your initial down payment and now you have this asset that is actually bringing you cash. So that is the best of both worlds in this situation. So again, know what you're trying to accomplish, right? There's deals like that out there. You just have to run the numbers. You got to assess it. You got to make sure you have the right team around you, right? Just running numbers and saying I want cash flow when you want to scale, well, just getting cash flow might not help you scale, because if you just fix it up enough and you're able to raise the rent, but you didn't raise the value of the property enough, now you can't refinance, or you bought the property with a DSCR loan. It's going to be very, very hard for you to refinance out of that loan to go get another loan. So strategizing is very important. And, to assist with you guys and help you things out, obviously we have the AspiRE school. We have different levels. So one of the levels is the AspiRE standard, the $29. That gets you to our monthly meetings, which I think is very valuable. We have one tomorrow, Wednesday, March 11th from 5:30 to 7:30. And that's pretty much what you get with this one. You get access to that. You get access to the school where you can be a part of the conversations. It goes a little bit deeper than what we have on the social media, on our Facebook page, and our Instagram, and all those good things. So the second one is this, is the AspiRE Premium. That's $147 a month. We do have you buy it for the whole year is a little bit cheaper, but I'm just giving the monthly stuff. The AspiRE Premium gives you access to some of our education, some of the tools that we have, some of the documents that we have. So and obviously you get more access to some of the leadership. And then our final one is AspiRE VIP, where you get access to our leadership, and then access to all the education, access to our monthly meetup. And you get the bells and whistles, and you get exposure to some of the deals that we might be putting into the school as well. Now, obviously I was sharing some of the things that I do. So part of what I also do is I help people run numbers, right? I do consulting. So these are some of the things that I offer, just being your real estate investment broker. I can help run deals. So the starter kit, I run about, I think, 10, 15 deals for you, turn around and give you 48 hours. I'll go to the property, videotape it, walk through it. You don't necessarily have to use me as your broker. So maybe you have another agent you want to work with, already, but then they don't do some of these things. Well, I can do that for you, and then you can go purchase with them. This is a monthly membership so that I can run assessments for you on a monthly basis. And then I have the Pro. This is, quicker turnaround, 24 hours. I'll, set up and say, hey, this is how you should structure your deal. Even though you might not use me, I can still consult you on that standpoint. And then the Elite, that's monthly as well, which then I will, you have unlimited of me analyzing deals for you, and helping you just navigate from that standpoint. Obviously, if you want me to represent you, that's a different side of the business. This is more of the consultant side. But thank you again, guys. Like I said, we're going to keep trying to do these things so you guys can get a little bit more comfortable with analyzing deals, and keep moving the needle, right? One of my mottos, be better by being better. And one of the ways I feel like being better is keep analyzing deals so you better understand your market, you better understand the supply that's out there, so that you can better run your business, right? Because at the end of the day, as I always say, as I tell people, I don't help people buy a property. I help them buy a business. It just so happens to be a property. And as an investor, that's how you got to look at that. You're not buying a duplex. You're buying a business. It just so happens to be a duplex, right? As soon as you close on that deal and you start receiving cash, that's a business. That's not a property that you bought and now you're spending a mortgage out, right? I tell people all the time, you bought a home, that's a liability. Well, it got equity in it. Well, until you use that equity, that's a liability because you're spending money out every week. So hopefully this will help you better understand, help you better get equipped to running a deal analysis so that you can go and put deals out there and build that real estate empire. Thank you so much for joining me on AspiRE Beast Council. I'm Charles Clark, your real estate investment broker. Beleza.